Hello everyone and welcome to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. We're in that twilight zone at the moment. We're getting closer to the Cheltenham Festival and conceivably we're going to be a bit distracted about the racing that's ahead of us. But there is some very good racing this weekend and there's a lot to look back on as well. As usual, Steve Ryder is alongside me and we welcome back to the show Anthony Dunkley. Dunkers, I'll start with you first of all. You've been on your travels to Dubai and of course whilst you were out there, something rather big was taking place here on the all-weather on Friday.
Yeah, we all huddled around a phone. I think it was 11:30 p.m. Dubai time to watch it and somehow managed to bypass any geo-blocking and see a great horse bolt up. And I firstly couldn't believe how easily he got over in a position from stall 12. And then the way that he just put them away was unreal. Yeah. I was a doubter, I'll be honest. Not a doubter in his ability for the flat, but I just thought from that position, Sheen Murphy was going to have to work something. And the fact he'd been keen in his races over jumps as well, I thought he might just be a bit blown out by the finish, but it was the complete opposite. I was blown away.
I'm glad we're starting with this because I think that is the big story. And even days afterwards, we're still talking about it now and what he's going to do. And he'll continue all the way up until the decision is made onto exactly what he's doing, Steve. First of all, as Anthony's just speaking about the actual race itself and what he did to the horses in behind, how did you rate that?
I mean, it was hard to know what to expect, wasn't it? And my wife has a gauge in horse racing, and we were travelling to London on the same day, and we were having a chat about it, and she said, well, what does he need to do in order to run at the Cheltenham Festival in the Champion Hurdle? And I kind of thought, well, I don't really know, because if he blows out, I'd say there's no chance of him running because he's not in the same sort of form. If he's in his second, third, I thought there was more chance of him running because he's probably not that top flat performer, so you might as well keep going with the jumps. And then he goes and bolts up, and on figures, you'd have to say that he's, low group standard, listed, high handicap form based on just that run alone. And it was so impressive. And I tried to then watch the race back not knowing that it was Constitution Hill. And I don't think people are going over the top with some of the sentiments, what they're saying, because he well entitled to run in sort of Group 2, Group 3s, I think, from this.
If he was just a newcomer making his first racecourse start as a 3-year-old, 4-year-old, we'd be blown away by it and we'd think, oh, can't wait to see him next on the flat. But of course, the Champion Hurdle remains in the picture. Two subjects for you to deal with. One, where he goes next and will he go for the Champion Hurdle? And the second one is about the occasion as well and what it did for the sport and Friday Night Live, etc.
Definitely. Let's focus on that part 2 of that first. It looked brilliant. The sound of it, the video of him coming back in and the racecourse announcer geeing up the crowd who didn't really need to be geed up, did they? They were all just delighted that they were seeing him in the flesh, that he was at Southall of all places. Like, we've all seen our fair share of all-weather racing, and especially the night racing, and if there's a bit of drizzle in the air. And
you love your Kemptons.
I do love my Kemptons. I'm a sucker a little bit for it, more so than your average racing fan might be. But it looked fantastic. It was billed as such, and it lived up to it. And it just shows you what happens when you put enough money on and a good horse turns up and people are buoyed by the fact of it. They'll come, they'll spend money, and they'll come home with a really positive picture in their heads. Would I let him see another hurdle again? Personally, I wouldn't. I think he has shown enough. It's not like some people are talking about him like that he can't make an impact in group company. Well, who's to say he can't? If off the back of it, if that performance is to be believed, and he is low hundreds-ish, that's been good enough for listed and low group company immediately off the bat. Also for the fact that we'll take away the obvious potential concerns that National Hunt Racing on its best day is fighting a difficult battle and trying to stay away from the kind of the jaws of people that don't really have a massive interest, but suddenly a massive incident happens. If your poster boy goes down for the 4th time in 5 runs, how do you come back from that? I find that so difficult. And I know I've seen some comments online saying you're soft if you have that opinion. Don't care. Genuinely don't care. I want to see National Hunt Racing for many years in the future. it takes one bad incident to suddenly plaster it over the front pages, and people that don't really care suddenly have a vested interest in trying to make it not happen. You've got to think about the longevity of the sport here when it's your poster boy who has a record like that.
I have a different view to that, but I'd like to hear what you think, Steve, about where he goes next. And what did you think of the experience watching him and all the changes, the fact that the BHA were prepared to slightly alter or bend the rules to make sure that 14 got in and etc. So there was a great deal of effort that was put into putting this race on, the prize money with the sponsors, etc. What racing can achieve.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good spectacle. I couldn't care less the fact that they had more stable boxes and increased the prize money. What I liked about it is that people went to see a horse. You hear a lot of people say around the jockeys need to do more to do this sport. Guinness has gone down 10p. That is irrelevant. Everyone turned up to see one horse. That horse performed, and they had a brilliant crowd. There was a brilliant atmosphere, and it got everyone emotional. I think even people sat at home watching it on the TV. Yeah. I sat there for about 5 minutes afterwards with a smile on my face. Like, the horses are what are gonna sell this sport, and if we can put on more exhibition stuff like this. Do you remember back in the days where we tried to get Frankel against Black Caviar over 7 furlongs, stuff like that? I do think racing needs to do more stuff like this in order to try to sell the horses, because they are the actual pinnacle of our sport. Do I think Constitution Hill's going to run over hurdles? I don't. I'd have it odds against that he's going to run in a champion hurdle. Personally, I would be happy for him to run in a champion hurdle. It doesn't. I think you get into a dangerous territory when you're starting to worry about horses in any sort of scenario. Like, if Frankel was still around in this, I mean, he was around on heavy in a champion stakes. Would everyone start going, I'm not sure whether we should start risking Frankel on ground like this? I think you're getting into a dangerous territory when you're getting that. I know it's completely different because you're talking about hurdles and you're talking about, but there's always going to be an element of risk. And yeah, it wouldn't bother me if he ran in a champion hurdle. I just don't think they will.
I'm sorry, I'm more was just the point I was trying to make was, does the risk outweigh the reward? And for me, it does. He is a champion hurdler already. We know his abilities over it, but the sample size that we have in recent times suggest I don't think it's worth the risk, especially when he's just shown his capability that he is more than able to do something like that. Remember John Henry?
Yeah.
He was winning group races. What was he, 10?
Yeah,
9, 10?
American gelding, yeah.
So it can be done. It just takes a special type of horse, and I think he is that special type of horse, especially at the lower group end. Some of those
How old was Ivano's pace? It was double figures, wasn't he, when he was still rolling on? The thing I think is, I'm just picking up on what Steve's saying and what you've said. I understand. I mean, the thing is, he could run over in the champion hurdle and then have a flat campaign. Why not? There's no problem with that, especially if they run in the champion hurdle in the middle of March and then set him up for a flat campaign starting in April at the meeting at Sandown, May at Sandown, for example. All sorts of options. But I'm concerned that if you do take a horse out of a race because it's fallen a few times, which I understand who he is, and don't get me wrong, but it's setting a dangerous precedent. So if horses fall, what's the precedent we're setting here? If the New Lion took that fall that he did, and then the same debate raged over whether or not he should run. He took a pretty horrible fall at Newcastle, but there was no question about him running again over hurdles, and he's a star horse. So I think we've got to be... and I would understand if they didn't want to run the champion hurdle and risk him, but if they are training him at home and they're schooling him and Yogi Bryson is involved, they're doing all they can to have him ready to run in the champion hurdle. So if they make the decision to run in the champion hurdle, it's one taken in the very best interest of the horse because they believe he can do it, which is ultimately their decision to make, not ours. And whilst I can understand the grievances people have, I still believe that it's a sport and it does involve risk.
Absolutely, and they are bred for this purpose. He is bred to be a jumps horse, no matter what ability he showed at Southall. You can't get away from the fact he is bred to excel over this. I think it's that old cliche. It's a game of opinions, isn't it?
There's no right or wrong, is there?
Exactly.
Really? Yeah.
I do think also it's influenced by the fact that the champion hurdle's on the first day.
Yeah.
Because the whole build-up to it, that opening day will be around it. I think if it was on the Thursday or something, I think there'd be less
And surely influenced by how wide open the division is.
Wow.
If Lossiemouth had come out and blown the whole division apart, and they went, well, there's no one to challenge us, surely they would think twice about that.
I mean, if Sergino hadn't got injured, there was no chance of him running in it.
The likelihood is that we'll be talking about this a fair bit until a decision is made. And like I said, I'm not sure that there is a right or wrong decision, but you've just got to go with what you believe in. OK, that's the Constitutional Hill chat out of the way. Time now for the other bits of Racing Recap. We start at Kempton. Loads of good horses on show, loads of good races, and we'll pick up first of all with the Pendle Novices Chase, won by Jax Junior. He had that wind up. He was quite promising before the wind up, but since the wind up, he's produced two really outstanding performances. He remains on course for a tilt at the Arkle. Obviously, I think 2.5 miles would have suited him better if there was that option for him. But how impressed were you with what he did again?
Quite impressed. I thought he won as he was entitled to be honest. In terms of the weights and measures and how he stacked up against others, he was an odds-on favourite. He had previous course and distance form, and he won a kind of as expected. I do like him. I thought it was a good bit of quick thinking when Go West ploughed through 5 out, and Tom Cannon and horse were as one, just to swerve left in a very short space of time. He's really going to need that if he goes to Cheltenham, because loads of things happen, and the Arkle sometimes, even though it's a small field, can produce, well, it's a novice chase, that horses make mistakes at the top of the hill or wherever, so you're going to need to be quick on your feet. He's already won at Cheltenham over hurdles. That was on the new course last April. I thought he was worth a go at the Arkle. It was as low as 25 to 1 immediately after the race for it. I mean, and 40s and bigger. It wouldn't personally appeal to me. I feel the love affair with Kempton does play a certain part of it. I'm not saying he can't show versatility, but the fact he was too highly rated even before running in the Pendle to consider a tilt at the Jack Richards, I think 146, that would be of the higher end. I feel like there will be better opportunities for him going forward. Why not have a go? And it can spring shocks, Western Warhorse et al. But he personally wouldn't be for me as a big price each way contender. 33
to 1 non-runner no bet for the Arkle Bet365 and 40 to 1 in the anti-post market. Any appeal, and what do you think of the horse anyway?
Oh, it's a lovely horse. I think they might regret not having a Jack Richards entry, to be honest. 146, the handicappers left him alone despite this win. I mean, he was entitled to win. He was £6 clear on ratings, I think. I just think the way that you see the Arkle being ran, Kopek de Board, Cargeese, there's going to be plenty of pace. I just worry that he's just going to be taken off his feet and get too far behind, especially going down the hill, approaching kind of the second last, to be honest. It's amazing to think that he ran in an Albert Bartlett last season, isn't it, given what he's done so far. But the same as Anthony, I've got slight reservations about him going back left-handed. I know he did win at Cheltenham, but those 3 wins over fences so far have been on right-handed tracks, and I thought that just suited him well. I think if you look at the Jack Richards, I do think it's a race that might change complexion over the next few years. Obviously, there's no rating ceiling. If you're going to have the likes of 6 Mile Bridge running in it in low 150s, I do think horses like Jax Junior in the next couple of years, connections might think, actually, we might put them in. We're not going to be carrying top weight. And if you are a genuine 2.5 miler, I do think it's a logical option at the festival, because what would he be in that? I'd say we're around a 12 to 1 shot for that, rather than running around at 33s in an Arkle, to be honest. So, yeah, nice horse. Wouldn't be for Cheltenham in the Arkle for me.
All right, a horse who created quite an impression in the Adonis was La Luna Artista. Appears to be, I mean, I didn't see her in the flesh, but she appears to be a very sizable individual. Obviously, our condolences to connections of Precious Man, who was still involved in the race, but suffered a fatal fall. How impressed were you by what she's done in beating One Horse Town?
Yeah, I was really impressed. Like, physically, like you said, she's going to be a proper chaser of the future, and I think Jane Williams wants to look after her over the next few years, because that's definitely going to be her game. It's hard. I watched it live, and I thought Precious Man was beat, and obviously watching the replay back, you can't see how well he's going, because obviously Racing TV have taken Precious Man out of the replay, which I can completely obviously understand why they've done it. I think it's a hard race to gauge with regards to ratings. I've just checked now, the handicap has given her an opening mark of 125. which I thought was fair. I'm glad that they've given her that rating, because if you'd have done it around One Horse Town, I was worried that they might go a bit inflated, but he looked over the top to me. He was sweaty in the prelims. He just didn't seem to run his race at all, didn't jump as well as he can do either. So, yeah, I thought it was a nice performance. Obviously highlights how well Jane Williams is good at, with number one with juveniles and number two at sourcing these horses. I think it was only €5,000. I mean, she looks a tremendous buy now for that. But yeah, nice horse. I think they're aiming more towards Aintree than what they are at Cheltenham, which is, I think we're going to be saying that about quite a few of these.
Yeah. Jane Williams was keen to stress the page of this horse was the thing that attracted her, because she understands the family, she knows the family.
And I'd imagine as a 4-year-old filly, now that you've won a Grade 2, you probably should be looking at Grade 1 honours. Is that going to happen at Cheltenham? Very unlikely, considering she was quoted at 12-1 for the Fred Winter. So Aintree would be the logical case. I thought it was interesting that she said in her post-race comments she was worried that the ground might be a bit soft for her, which was good to soft on the day officially. I half wonder maybe spring ground, like proper spring ground, is what she really wants. And if it was dry between now and Aintree, that could suit pretty perfectly. But she is a sizable filly who probably should only be improving as she fills out.
What about the Dovecote and Klub de Reve? I think a few people, me included, possibly underestimated his win at Christmas time. I didn't expect quite a commanding performance, or as commanding a performance as he's produced in winning that race. And again, our condolences to Connections have loaded and locked another fatal injury, a brutal day at Kempton. But the performance of Klub de Reve.
Loath to like. He was quite exuberant, wasn't he, when he won on Boxing Day? And I think because he won it from a low mark or a mark in the low 120s, that you immediately thought, well, he's going to have to step up fairly significantly if he's going to take a hand at graded races. But I feel he's probably getting better with his racing. He took a lead this time. He still raced a little bit enthusiastically. I wouldn't necessarily say keen per se, but he likes his job. He wanted to get on with it. And Paul O'Brien, once again, showing his talents in the saddle, producing him at the right time. He's come readily away. I find it very interesting. Harry Derham has always said Mossy Fen Road is his supreme horse. He had a great line saying, "You don't have to turn up unbeaten to run in the Supreme." So we're going to run Mossy Fen Road there, who I still think is a good horse based on Chepstow. It sounds more like Klub de Reve might be Aintree bound. And I think that might not be a terrible call. He was a point winner, of course, for Donegal Doyle as a 4-year-old. He looks a chaser in the making, a nice, sizable type, and he's a nice horse. I feel that we're only scratching the surface at the moment, and just because he didn't immediately win in his starts over hurdles, sometimes we are quick to write horses off.
Yeah, he's settling into the job. And speaking about size of Klub de Reve, it's a real contrast to the third horse who was well back, Mustang de Broil.
Yeah, I mean, Mustang de Broil will step forward. I think just experience probably got it beat. This was a nice performance. Like you, on the show last week, I kind of questioned that course and distance victory on Boxing Day, but stepped markedly through that. I was impressed that the 3-length winning margin at the finish, because I didn't see that jumping the last, quick and clear. Like you said, all the comments afterwards was, we might have a go in the Supreme, but we've still got Mossy Fen Road for that. So it'll be interesting to see if they do pitch them both in against each other, who Paul O'Brien rides in that. But they are sort of 25s and 50s for that race. It probably does show that they are up against it on the ratings.
Could I say the 4-year-old filly as well, Matiwo, considering she was running against her elders, and considering a 4-year-old filly against older geldings, it's going to be a hard task, but she dazzled at Newbury the start before. I didn't think she was one to give up on. She ran quite well in fourth.
Let's talk about the big chase, won by Lookaway. And again, slightly surprised that the manner of his victory. I wasn't entirely certain the trip would suit. Connections were adamant afterwards that that's what they always felt he wanted. And both he and the Doyen Chief got away from the others between the two of them. I thought it was a pretty impressive performance in the end. I didn't really expect that from Lookaway.
Neither did I. I had stamina doubts, and how the race was being run with Gustavian pinging fences from the front, I thought, you're going to really need to stay this contest. You even had like the likes of Catate Dore sort of niggled from an early stage in order to keep up, and he jumped well, travelled well and quick, and this was the first run over 3 miles, had finished for third in an Arkle trial, I think 2 years ago. as a novice chaser. And yeah, they've mentioned the Bet365 Gold Cup over 3 mile 5 at Sandown. I mean, you're really going to need to stay in order to win that race. But yeah, if he gets the trip again, he's just an improving horse despite his age, really. The handicappers raised him £7 to 146, which I didn't think was over the top given the manner of the victory. And yeah, it was a good performance. It's hard to know how good the horse is, isn't it?
It is a tough one because he looked a very smart hurdler. I remember when he was doing well over hurdles, and I think he won at Cheltenham. Neil King said it's the best horse he'd trained then, and he was very excited about what the future held. But they've obviously had the problems with him. I think, as much as anything else, credit to the team for getting him back to this sort of level.
Definitely. Even before that, he was a graded bumper winner, wasn't he, at Aintree, and then placed in the Challow. And I feel they would have been devastated that he wasn't living up to his potential because he was having problems. But it's very interesting. Firstly, the market move. Wow, he was well back. 16 to 1 was available, and he started 3 to 1 favourite. There was a lot of confidence that this was going to be the test. And given that there was no hiding place, why not have a crack at the Bet365 Gold Cup or something like that? It kind of feels like a shot to nothing this season. And I thought if it works out there, then he's rated within the kind of realms that you could consider a national.
Yeah.
And next year, definitely not this kind of year, but there's a lot up in the air at the moment with him. He's always been the apple of Neil King's eye.
I was glad to see Duzon Frey run well in third because that points you towards the form of that time form novices handicap chase, which has such a good record with horses coming from it towards the Cheltenham Festival. The form of that is already working out well. We'll touch on Calafé en Vol later. He's won since. The 6th Secret de Dieu has also won since. So I've actually had a little double, 220 to 1 double from that race. So I've backed Jordan's Cross, the winner for the Jack Richards, and Quebecois obviously finished second that day in the Ultima. I think they're both confirmed targets. So obviously Bet365 have no run or no bet and the anti-post. I've backed them both anti-post. So 12 to 1 and 16 to 1 is 220 to 1. So hopefully the time form novices chase, which is already working out well, will continue to at the Cheltenham Festival.
Excellent. Good luck. The Ida, and in the words of Hannibal Smith from the A-Team, I love it when a plan comes together for Nicky Richards, and he's pulled off another great coup here with Angler's Crag, obviously, with Brian Ellison before, now with Nicky Richards. And I thought, given an excellent ride by Danny McMenamin, got him into a lovely rhythm. He jumped beautifully out in front.
Yeah, he really did. And Danny didn't panic when it was only the bold came to have a go at him. 2 11-year-olds scrapping out the finish. It was nice to see. Felt like we needed a feel-good story in this Ida. It was another small field. That's the second time in 3 years. It was 17 last year, so hopefully you feel it's not going the Roland Merrick way, which only attracted 4 and 7 the previous year. It was a great advert for keeping horses who clearly love their job going. And yeah, I thought Danny McMenamin once again advertising his talents. Can you say he's underrated?
I think he is.
But it feels like a lot of us know his abilities, but maybe we aren't shouting it necessarily loud enough.
Well, I think the ones that get shouted the most are the ones who ride in the bigger races on a weekend, the Sean Bowens, the Harry Cobdens, etc. And he dominates, or he rides very well up north where Brian Hughes is. And does Brian Hughes get as much credit as Sean Bowen and Harry Cobden? Probably not. And therefore, if he's not getting it, I'm sure Danny McMenamin's not getting what he deserves. I think he's a brilliant rider. And Angler's Crag wins it for a second time. First horse to regain his title in the Ida Chase. And of course, he could conceivably have won it last year, bar the shenanigans at the start.
Yeah, he's quirky, isn't he? 11 years old, you think that he should know better, really. Like you said, unseated his rider going to the start last year.
He was messing about again this year.
Yeah, well, he caused the false start the first time and then was kept wide and basically took off with his jockey in order to then get a flying start. And that did slightly worry me watching that, thinking about the starts last year at the Cheltenham Festival. So I'm just hoping that we have some sort of procedure in place for the Cheltenham Festival starts this year. But we'll not worry about that just yet. I thought he set a real strong pace, and one by one they just started to come under pressure in behind. I looked at the figures afterwards. The finishing speed percentage was 94.76%. The final furlong was ran in 19.18 seconds, so they were crawling late on, but that's because he'd had the race won between 5 out, just continue in that pace. And yeah, good ride. I don't know how much Danny McMenamin actually had the choice of going that speed or
Yeah.
whether the horse did it. But yeah, fair play to Angus Crag. Like you said, first horse to regain and the third horse to win 2 Ryder chases. So good performance. And I'm glad once again the handicapper has only raised him 6 to 136. So it couldn't be inconceivable that in a similar sort of contest, maybe next year, that he could be back to try and do it again.
It'd be lovely to see. Well done to Connections. A plan that has come off Anglers Crag in the Ida Chase. Lots of other good races from the weekend all over the world. What would you like to pick up on?
I'd love to start with Kaiying Rising, personally.
Well, I thought you were going to pick up on what Steve was talking about at the start of the show when he was talking about Frankel against Black Caviar over 7. Because there's been talk about Kaiying Rising taking on Romantic Warrior over a mile.
Yeah.
That would be something.
That really would be something. And to be honest, it's something that I think is, if he's not going to travel, well, he will travel for the Everest once and then he'll come back and he's got the division at his mercy.
Yeah.
Now we've seen everything we need to see and he's won 18 on the bounce and we know he stays 7 furlongs and stays it well. Why not a mile? Why not 2,000 metres? How amazing would that be to sell it, that he not only dominated this division, but kind of like Corto back in that season where he was the 2 mile, 2.5 mile and 3 mile champion. Imagine all of that at the same time. And if you map it out, he still can run in the Everest. He can run in the Hong Kong Sprint on International Weekend in December. He can win that same Silver Jubilee for a 3rd year in a row. And then you've got the Champions Mile on FWD Champions Day, where he can meet Romantic Warrior. Doesn't sound like Danny Shum's that keen, though. Yeah, I can't think why.
Sounds like he's ducking it.
Maybe if they were to have a level of confidence at trying to play Romantic Warrior at his own game, but that would require a particularly... I'm assuming they're not going to want to step from 7 to a mile 2 immediately. So you might need a go-between, but... Yeah. I think he's an international racing man's dream, personally. Yeah. He already has travelled. I don't particularly buy into the... I'd love to see him at Royal Ascot. Who wouldn't? Yeah. When he's a 4-legged ATM, why exactly would they?
I mean, yeah, but he has won £13 million. I mean, does it really matter for him to stay behind in Hong Kong and win some more money when it's more beneficial for the sport as a whole, where he'd travel? It doesn't have to be to... Why can't he go to the Breeders' Cup?
Yeah, absolutely.
Running the Breeders' Cup mile or something. I don't know, I'm just thinking outside the box, but it doesn't have to just be Royal Ascot. It could be further travel, just other than... That's from a desire to see the horse as much as anything else. But
yeah, I think the fact that you have the... Is the Everest still the richest turf race in the world? So the chance to win another one of them, they're not going to pass that up. That's just... You have to get your head around the fact that there's $20 million on the table there. But it's then after that you can start to think and believe. If I were one of the Middle Eastern countries, I mean, next year you would be canvassing hard to get him over. Say you've achieved everything in Hong Kong. You'd imagine he would bolt up in the Alquoz. Oh, yeah. He probably would have to be 75% to win that race. Yes, exactly. And you could then say to the Europeans, come and take him on a level playing field. You've all got to travel, as you do every year for World Cup night. Come and take them on. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. Anything else, bar? Diligent Harry, speaking of World Cup night, a second listed race for him, dropping back to 5 furlongs. He was third in the Alquoz a couple of years ago behind California Spangle. Probably didn't get the invite last year because they were handicapping with him at this stage of the year. He was high hundreds at that point. But if he was to get an invite, Clive Cox, he's a game campaigner, 4th last year with Ghostwriter in the Dubai Turf. It's a possibility. I'm a massive fan as well of Sky Safari. I was so happy to see her win the Winter Derby because Connections have long thought she was a black type filly. And when it didn't work out the first time, and after Royal Ascot last year, I think some people were questioning her abilities. Just doesn't want fast ground. So I think back end of the season, when there's a bit more juice in the ground of the turf season, I'm very interested to see how she gets on. Given who trains her, don't be surprised if she ends up in the very best company. Yeah. Because that's the sort of trainer he is, the ability to squeeze every last drop out of them, get them going up the ladder.
Other good horses to talk about, Steve. I thought Potter's Charm was pretty impressive ultimately, and what a fine run from Brewing Up a Storm, by the way, in second in that.
Brilliant. Yeah, 13 years old, cheek pieces back on, and ran an absolute stormer. For a couple of seconds, I thought, oh my God, he's actually going to get there. Yeah. But I think Potter's Charm was somewhat idling in front. I think obviously they're going to skip Cheltenham, go to the Aintree Hurdle. It'll be interesting to see what sort of field goes there, because some years it's really good and you get 4 or 5 from the Champion Hurdle in. Obviously, last year we had the 2 mares, didn't we? Lossiemouth and Woodoo in there, as well as Constitution Hill. And he's got course form at Aintree, obviously won the Formby there a couple of years ago. I think he's somewhat underrated, I think, Potter's Charm. 3 Grade 2 wins, a Grade 1 as well. And well placed, I think, in order to win this race. And that's something that the Twiston Davis, they often do pitch their horses into Grade 1 company quite early on and are quite bold with their campaigning, whereas I think they've done the right thing with this horse, because at one stage it did look as if he might go the wrong way, and actually they've now got him back winning races, and I think he's going to be an exciting novice chaser next year. Dependent on how he's campaigned next year and given the colours that he's ran in, and we'll see how Regent Stroll gets on in the Jack Richards, but that could be a target for him next season. They've obviously had Caldwell Potter do it. Regent Stroll is a leading campaigner this year. It's over the correct trip of 2.5 miles. So, might be one to get 3 quick early runs in novice chases next season, and then we see what sort of handicap mark he's given next season. But that's a good over a year away that we're looking at there. Bollinthal won again for Nick Schofield, obviously having a brilliant first year as a trainer. And then we'll have to touch on Grange Clare West, who won the Grand National Trial, the Bobby Joe Chase. I thought it was a good ride by Paul Townend, and he's going to have some decision to make on which one of the 12...
Which one would you go for?
Which one of the 12 Willie Mullins horses
Crazy.
Is actually going to be running there. I think it's interesting. I think it'd still ride Iron Maximus, because I'd say arguably Iron Maximus, even though he's dropped £1 in the ratings officially, I think what he's achieved so far this season in his runs is actually better than what he had done for the 2 years previously. So it would surprise me if on the day he gets off Iron Maximus.
Okay. If you were Paul Tannen, who would you ride in the Nash?
I think seriously about Grange Clare West. I mean, the company he's been keeping since, that was his first win since he won in Grade 1 company at the Christmas meeting in 2023 at Leopardstown. Ever since then, he has been part of that Mullins squad that they turn up in Savills Chases and Irish Gold Cups, and you look at him and think, wow, you really need an opportunity. and he, when he got it, he took it with both hands. He ran a cracker in the National last year, and you know he's going to take to the test. He's still off the same mark, I think, of 163. You could do a lot worse.
Okay, I'm just going to mention one other horse, which is Majolique for Willie Mullins. Very impressive in winning over hurdles. I think the race was made slightly easier. But not sure they're going to go to Cheltenham. David Casey was mentioning that the Connections had Mercia win at Aintree last year, and seems as if that might be the intention with Majolique. So that's one to look out for from that juvenile hurdle at Naas earlier in the week. Okay, that has been this week's Racing Recap. Now, before we get into our weekend preview, just to let you know that our sponsor, Bet365, have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race from 8 a.m. on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you at the bigger odds, and full T's and C's can be found on the website. And don't forget our Cheltenham preview this year. It's just around the corner, Thursday the 5th of March, George IV pub in Chiswick. Steve, myself, Andy Holding, Warren Greatrix and Pat Cooney. It's £15 per person or £5 to oddschecker subscribers, and it includes a half-time pie and pint. Tickets are running out, so if you haven't got one yet, please hurry and book yours now. Time to have a look ahead to what's coming up this weekend, and it's the Bet365 sponsored card at Kelso, and some really good races potentially on show. The first race we'll talk about is the Morebattle Hurdle, for which I started a joke is 7-2. That old hero, Cracking Rhapsody, is 6-1. Hamlet's Knight, 8-1, along with Hot Fuss, Dedicated Hero, 10s along with Quaviste and Serious Challenge. Spectacular Sunrise, Willie the Builder, 14s bar those. Where would you like to start in this race, Anthony?
I think you probably have to start with Cracking Rhapsody, given that he's going for a 3 on the bounce in the race. He's £4 higher than he won it off last year. Last year, he was deemed to be too high in the weights because I think he'd won it off 119 the previous year. He just keeps proving wrong. This is his cup final, the 100 Grand Cup final as well. And I thought He'll be facing similar kind of conditions if the forecast stays as it is. It's currently good to soft. There's light rain expected, but a bit of sun dotted around. So we might not exactly be getting a downgrade necessarily. You know he's fine on the track. You know conditions are going to be okay. And he's second up after a wind up. His season revolves around this. It's hard to get away from that. It's just whether you deem his £4 going to be enough to anchor him. I'm not. You can't rule him out. I just think he might find one too good as it currently stands. But he's only 7.
Who's the one that will be too good?
I thought a value play in here could be Jet to Vegas, who won the Premier Novices Hurdle on this
14
card.
to 1 with Bet365.
And chasing's not really worked out.
Yeah.
But he's been keeping fairly good company in that sphere as well. I'm in two minds over whether 135 is an underestimating mark or is it maybe overestimating a little bit. But I thought he looked right at home over in this kind of test last year, albeit over a little bit further. I thought he was a fair each way selection in a race where there's question marks about a few of them. Not all negative question marks, but question marks nonetheless.
Okay. What do you like, Steve?
Yeah, I agree completely with what Anthony says.
Both horses?
Both horses, yeah.
Okay.
Kraken Rhapsody, the bookmakers aren't taking the same chances as what they have done a couple of years ago, one at 9 to 1 and 12 to 1. I just thought a mark of 136 might be slightly too high, but I think he's one that you know is going to be involved in the finish. I thought Jet to Vegas could prove well handicapped off a mark of 135. The Russell Scudamore stable are slightly getting back into form. I think they're going to have some well handicapped horses come the spring. He's still only 7 years old as well, so I think they'll probably can the novice chasing campaign and come back to that next year. It's not that he's jumped poorly, he just hasn't got his head in front so far with some of the stable horses running slightly below par. But yeah, he's back at the same meeting that he won a Grade 2 novice hurdle at last year, and yeah, I thought 14 to 1 was quite a big price.
Okay. The two horses I was interested in, ground dependent. One's Hamlet's Night and Hot Fuss. Obviously, Hot Fuss came out of the big race at Newbury, ground too soft. And I still think he potentially, even though he went up for the win at Windsor, I still think there's a bit more in him. And Hamlet's Night was entered to run on the weekend at Kempton, but because of the forecast of the rain and the soft ground, I think they decided to go to Kempton for that handicap, in which he bolted up under Ashley Lewis, who had 3 winners that night, by the way. The going at Kelso currently is good to soft. So I'm waiting to make sure, because Hamlet's Night has never run on worse than good ground on since he's swapped stables. So if the ground is decent enough, he might be the one I'd prefer. He's got an entry in the Supreme and the County still, so he's the one, perhaps, maybe, but just thinking about it anyway at this stage. Let's have a look at the Bet365 Premier Chase. Protectorat, 4 to 7 favourite. Iroko 9 to 4, Matata 5 to 1, and then bigger prices the remainder. Those are the top 3 rated horses in the race. Protectorat, obviously off the back of the Windsor win, which, in fairness, was set up a little bit forward because of the weights and the ratings. But do you feel that this is another golden opportunity for him?
I thought 4 to 7 was quite short, to be honest. This is a race last year that Grey Dawn obviously beat Iroko 2.5 lengths in when conceding £3 to him. Protectorat's rated 165 and won the Fleur de Lis last time. 11 years old now, though. I thought he could prove vulnerable to Iroko in this, to be honest. I was really impressed with Matata on New Year's Day at Cheltenham. It was kind of his first go, well, it was his second attempt over an intermediate trip. I thought he was probably just backed up a bit too quickly in that race at Windsor last time. But the 2 mile, 7.5 furlong surely has to be a question mark, given how keen he used to race over the 2 miles. I think Iroko, we're going to look at the back at him on his career and think, yes, you may have won a Grand National at some stage in your career, but I think he could have won multiple graded chases.
I agree.
I'm not quite convinced with how they've campaigned this horse. If you look at his form, even standalone from this year, ran well behind the Jukebox Man at Haydock. Yes, he was in receipt of a little bit of weight. Beat Firefox at Ascot last time. Firefox did wonders for that form, finishing 4th in the Irish Gold Cup, which obviously boosts that form. The Grand National weights are now published. He can do what he likes. And I think this will be the last time that he's campaigned with that Grand National in mind. I think he's going to win here. I think he's going to have a massive chance at Aintree, and then hopefully we're going to see the best of him next season.
I would almost verbatim copy everything you say. I'm all over Iroko in this race. I think he'll win. Anthony?
I wouldn't be as keen to rush in at around 9 to 4, personally, given there's no doubting his ability. It's just for my mind is drawn back to this time last year when he was behind Grey Dawning. I think he'll probably let Protectorat have a bit of a start, and it could be a similar kind of scenario. Protectorat, yeah, he is 11. He's still well able to win races, and this is classic Dan Skelton territory. The penalties have run out now with him. He's banked 172 grand for winning 2 editions of the Fleur de Lis, and he gets another fine opportunity, another left-handed sharp track, no problem for him. I thought it was hard to be dead set against him personally, for all that there is no juice in the price. I thought overall, barring the top 2, this is pretty weak for the grade, and I wouldn't be in a rush to be backing either, to be honest.
Okay. I'm hoping Iroko does what it looks like he's always been capable of, and if he blitzes Protector out here, then I'm with Steve. I think he could be campaigned at even higher level next year. Okay, the Bet365 Premier Novices Hurdle, also at Kelso, sees Starmount, the 94 favourite, Le Beau Madric 4-1, Montemares 4-1, Captain Hugo, who's got a couple of entries on the weekend, 8 along with Lord Byron, and the Blue Room, the Last Cloud, etc., and 10s bar those. I thought this was a harder one to work out. What do you like here?
I think you're spot on. I think there's lots of horses that fit the profile for this race. Starmount definitely does. I mean, he wasn't up to top level when they tried him in the form beat, but he's since won very easily at Wetherby. He's well worth a go at this kind of test. I guess the ground could be a slight concern. The only 2 performances he hasn't won or has seemingly underperformed were in his point-to-point when he was behind Conman John, who I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he develops into in the next few years. That was at Dromahan in County Cork. And then in the Formby, it was because they were omitting hurdles and everything, it probably wasn't the ideal scenario for him. So I can definitely see possibilities for him. Montemares, another one who's no match for No Drama this end in the Challow, but it's very good form in the context of this race.
Actually ran all right, didn't he? I got away from him at the end, but he
yeah.
actually was sticking on. Okay.
I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought, and this drop back to, it's a grade 2, and it can produce very nice horses off the back of it. Rouge Vif, my Drogo, the last horse to do this race, and the top novices double at entry for the Skeltons. But sometimes it is also a cup final in itself for a horse, and some horses don't seemingly find the heights that you're expecting them to take this en route to top honours. I thought Le Beau Madric had as good a chance as any on what we've seen. Lovely start to his hurdles career. 2 from 2, both wins at Newcastle. Different ground conditions, different trips. He's already shown a little bit. I think he would be at the prices my tentative play in here. I'm very interested to see what Gaelic Rover turns into. Yeah. He's in the entries. He's like a gangly teenager at the moment, isn't he? He's all arms and legs. He's got a lovely frame that is going to fill out over the next few years, but you would just wonder if this is maybe a bit too soon for him.
If the majority of this field turn up, it's a very good race, because there are a load of horses here with serious potential.
It is. Anthony mentions a few previous winners. When I was going back through those previous winners and going through the form of the race, I didn't realise this was the race that Django Bay finished second in a couple of years ago. So as well as producing previous winners, it pretty much has produced what could be our favourite for a Gold Cup this year. Starmount's favourite, I thought he's rated 134. I thought he probably was justified to be off that rating. I thought it was interesting the fact that Dan Skelton looks set to run Le Beau Madric and in theory blow an attractive handicap mark of 125. Still holds entries in the Supreme and the Turners, so that kind of shows you the regard of what he had earlier on in the season. I thought he's bettered his bumper form on what he's done over hurdles so far. Won a couple of times at Newcastle, justifying short odds. I thought he was more impressive the second time under a penalty. Beat Eagles Reprieve by 6 lengths. I then went back through Dan Skelton's record in the race. He won it with My Drogo in 2021. I had to Ho Jolly Smoke and Listen to Your Heart running it well in recent years as well. So it does appear a race that he does target with some of his better novice hurdlers, and I thought 4-1 was pretty fair.
Okay. I like Montemares. I thought he ran really well, but also looked green still in the Challow. So I'm hoping that he'll come forward for that. For the Tom Lacey team, the Greatwood Gold Cup at Newbury looks potentially another very good race on paper. Vincenzo is the 11-4 favourite with Bet365. Twin Jets 4-1, Rodney 11-2, Blow Your Wad 7-1, Cheltenham 7s, Issam 7s, and then 12-1 or bigger. The remainder. Who do you like here?
Well, it's interesting. I do a trends piece for oddschecker every Monday, and it often throws up the favourite or the second favourite when I'm going through it. This time, it throws up the complete outsider of the whole field in Teddy Blue, who's 25-1, which I thought was relatively interesting.
Yeah.
Now, that's based on the likes of age, runs this season, ratings, course form. Going back through it, he ran well at the track. He finished second off a mark of 131. That's the same mark as when he won on his reappearance at Ascot. He's ran okay on his next 2 starts at Ascot and Musselburgh. He's now back down to a mark of 133. Harry Derham remains in good form.
Yeah.
He had Klub Reve obviously win the Grade 2 at Kempton, as well as One Horse Town, and Jasmine Bliss finishing second in the other 2 Grade 2s on the card. I just thought 25s may well be overpriced.
Well, if you're right, then massively, yes, 25-1. Teddy Blue for the Greatwood Gold Cup for Steve. Anthony?
It's kind of a gun to my head situation. I think Twin Jets probably hasn't shown everything that we'd like to have seen from him so far, but he's unexposed off 148. It's inconclusive in what happened last time when he unseated on New Year's Day. He's a bold front runner, and he can make mistakes. Now, that's sometimes not a match made in heaven, but I think he's got the best front-running jockey in the business in Harry Cobden. If he gets him in a rhythm, it's a big, long straight. He can find a bit of a breather to him. I thought he had as good a chance as any, given that he seems now on an upward curve, and he's always a horse who I think has promised a fair bit, and at the age of 9, he's now just starting to show it.
Okay, and I am going to go for Issam. I know he's gone out for that win at Kempton where he beat Madara, who I can't wait to see why they go with Madara. But the only run that you could say he didn't run as well as some of the others this season was the one at Ascot where he finished 6th, but he lost a shoe. And obviously that race is working out really well. The Jukebox Kid and Montregard were the first 2 in that race. He's obviously gone up in the handicap. Ned Fox has been booked to ride him. Ned Fox for the Tom Simon stable is 2 from 6, and he's operating at like £20 profit for the, obviously rode a bit of an outsider. But the fact that he's been booked to ride, the horse has gone up in the handicap, looks like this is something of a plan. And I really like the way he went through his race at Kempton last time. He travelled nicely. He made one mistake, I think, at the 6th. But other than that, he jumped, I thought, pretty well, or well enough. I thought he ran well in the Etalon race at Ascot as well, where obviously Etalon got a great ride out in front. So I thought he was a solid bet. Anyway, he's 7-1 for that race. Let's have a chat about the Grimthorpe, which is taking place at Doncaster. Let's have a look at the market. King Threshold, 5-1 favourite. Dartmoor Pirate, 6-1. Kelsey, 6-1. 7-1 Jasmine Negrugi, 8 New Order. And the form is mighty. 10s bar those. What do you like here, Anthony?
Dartmoor Pirate for me. I think Anthony Honeywell he's been bringing this horse nicely along through his chasing career. It started with promise over a trip that was always going to be way too short for him, albeit on a demanding track like Chepstow. He showed that was the case at Lingfield when he bolted up, and then he won a Premier Handicap here at the end of January. I think the step up in trip shouldn't be a problem for him. I think he's still fairly enough weighted, only going up £5 for last time. And we don't have jockey declarations in here. I wouldn't be that surprised if there was a good claimer around that they might even take a few more off him. He does have Jasmine Negrugi in here as well. Yeah. Very different profiles, though. I just thought while he's on an upward trajectory, Dartmoor Pirate might be the one to side with.
I'm going to agree with you on that. He's only had 4 runs over fences, and the tongue tie that he had on for the first time at Lingfield looked like it made a difference, because he obviously had it on when he won the Great Yorkshire Chase, and I don't have any concerns about going up in trip, judged by the wins at Lingfield and at Doncaster last time. So for me, what about you, Steve?
I'm going to chance some scope for Richard Hobson and Charlie Maggs. This is a stable who've won with their previous 2 runners, including Manila Premier, who was the horse that cost 400 grand at the sales. Obviously been off a long time, but yeah, it was impressive the other day. So stable are running well currently. Some Scope was an impressive winner over this course and distance in December off a mark of 119. He was fitted with a first-time visor that day and made all. Then he ran in a cross-country last time behind Favori Shamdu, and there was no headgear on, and he was held up in rear and just never really got involved. Now, there was an excuse for that. He suffered an overreach and lost a shoe. So I think that can be completely excused. Now, I'm hoping when declarations come through for a return of headgear and hopefully a return to prominent riding tactics in here, he'll be racing off only a £3 higher mark, which I thought was actually quite lenient based on his win over this course and distance here last time, and I think it's available at a double-figure price. So for some scope, I thought it was a big price.
12 to 1 with Bet365 as I dropped my lid for my pen, but caught it beautifully. Like the West Indies cricket team, who are doing brilliantly in the T20 World Cup at the moment.
And you honoured them.
Yes, 100%. Loads of other good racing coming up this weekend. Like we said, I know that Cheltenham's around the corner, but let's not lose sight of the fact that we've got some good horses on show this weekend. Anything else that's running that over Friday, Saturday, Sunday that you wanted to pinpoint for us?
It's trials meeting at Lingfield for all-weather finals day, and there's that really good 3-year-old Spring Cup, which cans are up a good one. And I thought Rishi's Rocket was a very interesting contender in there. Already has Hector Crouch decked up. Rishi's Rocket, we've seen him twice. He debuted at the back end of last year at Newmarket. Really promising run, considering he was priced up as one of Rafe's who was going to need the experience mentally, physically. Well, they didn't waste too much time before they got him up very quickly. It was over this course and distance of 7 furlongs at Lingfield. He bolted up. It was the way that he just set himself aside from all of his rivals that marked him down as a horse who really should be taking this step up sooner rather than later. He's by Newbury. He's out of an Exceeding Excel mare. I think probably will stay further, but this is not a bad starting point for him. And he is removed from the track 100 days, but I just thought he looked a slightly classier profile than some of the others who, that at the end of the all-weather season, you're just trying to get that last little bit of juice out of them before you maybe draw stumps and wait for the next winter or the back end of the turf season. I felt he could be a classy one in here, and I quite like him. Lovely name as well.
Great name. It's often attributed to me.
Yes, exactly.
Erroneously. But I let it slide all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Got it.
Steve, what else have you got your eye on this weekend?
Just 2 races. The 220 at Kelso, the Bet365 handicap hurdle. Now, Lucinda Russell has trained the winner of the last 2 years in this and has them both entered in this. That's Serious Operator and Bold Light. And the Serious Operator won it in 2024 for a mark of 126 when beating Brewing Up a Storm, who obviously ran a cracker on Sunday. Runs in it of only £1 higher mark. Won at Newcastle in November, beating Hamsian as well. So I thought was still competitively handicapped and comes into it in a bit better form than last year's winner, Bold Light, who won it off a mark of 123 and is only rated 120 in it this year. Unseated at the 5th fence last time and could be one of these that could revert back to hurdles. Now, I touched on it previously. I think the Russell and Scudamore yard are going to have some well-handicapped horses coming into the spring. So they wouldn't be anti-post propositions because I imagine only one of them will turn up here. And I would prefer Serious Operator if he was to turn up here. I think he's currently around 5 to 1 with Bet365 at the time of recording. And you know I love a veterans chase. The 315
I left
Newbury.
this to you. Yeah, go on.
Usually I strictly concentrate on the 10-year-olds in veterans chases, but I have to back Sam Brown at the age of 14, just back at Newbury. Now, he's twice finished 4th in Denman chases previously. He won a veterans chase at Newbury last season by 3 lengths off a mark of 152. It's now dropped down to a mark of 150 and is currently 10 to 1 with Bet365. So hopefully Sam Brown can do the business at the age of 14.
You love a veterans chase, which is lovely. And you know I love Queen's Gamble. She is running, or due to run. I mean, who knows with my selections. Quite often they don't run. But Queen's Gamble is entered to run in the 210 at Doncaster on Saturday in the handicap off a mark of 132. I know some people might have been slightly perturbed by the performance of Bluey when she won at Wincanton, but I think Queen's Gamble beat her fair and square. She jumped really well. She travelled well. She did travel well at Musselburgh. The drop back to 2 miles seemed to suit her. So hopefully she continues a progressive curve. And one other horse that I'm keeping an eye on, I don't know much about it, but I was just going through the entries for the handicap hurdle at Newbury on Saturday, and Links de Taille is entered. Hasn't run in Britain yet for Tom Simons again, but is unbeaten in 2 chases and a hurdle race in France. Ned Fox booked a ride, but I don't know anything. I just was going through the entries and I was taken by it, just as in not run in Britain yet, unbeaten in France, first run for Tom Simons, Ned Fox. So it's just something I was just looking at. No, I don't know any more about the horse than what is available for everybody else to see, but I just thought it would be quite a daring entry first time up. Who knows what the horse might be capable of. Okay, just a couple to keep the eye on, in addition to the likes of Sam Brown and Richie's Rocket, etc. That's been put up by Anthony and Steve. Okay, before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just to let you know of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with free spins on offer if you get 2 or 3 selections correct, and prize pools are available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6 T's and C's apply. So it's time for our best bets of the weekend, and Anthony, you are opening the batting.
I am going to go for Le Beau Madric in the Premier Novices. I think this is a tried and tested route the Skeltons know well. He, as Steve was saying, he has left his bumper form behind in spades. Not that that was half bad, he just wasn't winning in it, but those are the building blocks that they put in place. And I think I like the variety this horse has shown, given the different grounds, the different trips. Yes, they've both been at Newcastle, and this does represent a new test, but I'd say Dan and Harry Skelton probably know at this point what kind of horse might do quite well at Kelso, and maybe this could be a My Drogo in the making, that you take this and then on to Aintree, a fresh horse, and he is entered at Cheltenham, but I feel that we're seeing him here, it's fairly unlikely, given he's a novice hurdler, that he will be that he won't be going to Aintree off the back of this. Okay. Should it all go well, of course.
Le Beau Madric 4-1 with Bet365 for that Bet365 Premier Novices hurdle at Kelso on the weekend. Steve?
Anthony touches on one that he thinks will win this weekend and head on to Aintree, and I think Iroko is going to do the same in the Premier Chase. I just think we're going to see him to full potential from now on. I think he'll win this, have a good chance in the Grand National, and then take in hopefully Grade 2 and Grade 1 chases next season rather than these graduation chases.
Okay, Iroko. I like Iroko as well. I think he's got a great chance on Saturday. That's in the Bet365 Premier Chase, 9-4 with sponsors. And I'm going with Queen's Gamble. I hope that she continues to do what she's always promised to. And the fact that she's come back, she ran okay at Bangor on a comeback run. She had that bit of time off. She came back, ran well at Musselburgh, then went to Wincanton. She's getting better with each run of her fences. It's possible this might be her last season racing. I've read that in 1 or 2 places. So let's see her go out in style at the end of this season. Queen's Gamble in the 2:10 at Doncaster. I think a marker 132 is very generous for her. So she is my selection as my best bet of the week. Anthony, thank you for coming in. What's the rest of the week hold in store for you?
What does the rest of the week hold in store? I've got a bit of studio. I've got a nice long day on Thursday afternoon and evening.
Oh, wow.
Where we'll be having a look ahead to a meeting you'll be at, Emirates Super Saturday.
Yes.
Having a look for those entries. Should nearly be coming out in the next day or two. Yeah. Massive amount of prize money and a bit of intrigue to look forward to there. So I can't wait.
Lovely. And Steve, are you half term all done and dusted?
Yeah, we survived.
You got through it okay?
Yeah, all of us are still here.
Lovely.
This afternoon I'll be scrolling through Cheltenham handicap weights that will be published in around an hour's time. Yeah. And I'm doing a Cheltenham Festival Preview for Weatherby's tomorrow evening with the likes of Hoylesy and Daryl Jacob, which should be good fun.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun indeed. And by the way, our next show here on Racing Weekly indeed will be our live Cheltenham preview. It'll be uploaded on YouTube the day after. But thank you very much for joining us for this episode of Racing Weekly, brought to you by oddschecker in association with Bet365. Thanks to Steve and Anthony for joining me on the show. As always, please leave a kind review or any good suggestions on your reviews on Apple Podcasts or in the comment section on YouTube. Hopefully we'll see some of you for our live Cheltenham preview. But until then, from Steve, Anthony, myself and the Racing Weekly team, bye-bye.